Hi, and welcome back to the Tiny French Bacon. It's Cake Week Showstopper.
Today, for your showstopper, you will be baking a chocolate extravaganza. Must have at least 2 types of chocolate. Must be an extravaganza. Extravagantly decorated. You have 4 hours. On your mark, get set, bake.
Chocolate extravaganza. I went and decided to do a black and white Bundt cake. Here's my Bundt pan that I'm greasing and cocoaing instead of flouring. For this chocolate cake batter, I'm using cocoa powder, and it's an oil-based cake instead of butter-based cake for a moist cake. I'm mixing all of my dry ingredients together separately, adding 2 types of leavener, baking powder and baking soda, to react with the Dutch processed cocoa powder and create more lift. A fair amount of salt to balance the cocoa flavor, as well as some espresso powder, which will intensify the chocolate flavors. And then I'm mixing all of my wet ingredients. As I said, some oil, as well as some buttermilk that would also react with the cocoa powder, some eggs, and for added richness, some vanilla paste and some sour cream. Then I went on, I created the white part of this black and white cake, which is a center made of white chocolate, cream cheese. Pretty much a white chocolate cheesecake mixture. For this, you'll add some cream cheese, some white chocolate, eggs, and sugar. The white chocolate will, of course, need to be melted to be incorporated with the cream cheese and the egg. Make sure to cool it a little bit before adding it so you don't curdle the eggs. Once you have a smooth, shiny finish, I just tasted it. It tasted delicious. Put it in a piping bag so it's easier to spread around evenly in our chocolate batter. Once everything is in the Bundt pan, it's an hour in the oven at 325, pretty low temperature. Our cake is done. Now, tempering chocolate. Tempering chocolate is the process of heating it to melt, cooling it, and heating it again, so you have a smooth texture that you can snap and it sets at room temperature. Here we're tempering dark and white chocolate. They don't temper at the same temperatures, which means I have to be a little careful. For that, you need to chop off your chocolate, and what I'm adding here is called micrio. It's pretty much cocoa butter that's finely processed to be able to set it more evenly at room temperature, because cocoa butter is solid at room temperature. I set aside, as you saw, a little bit of the dark chocolate. It's called a seed chocolate. The seed chocolate will help it cool down more evenly. And here, for the seed chocolate of the white chocolate, I use just plain chocolate chips. When the temperature is ready for the dark chocolate as well, I'm cooling it down by putting it in a cold bath, and it's just a matter of checking with a good thermometer where your temper is at for both of your chocolates. When it's ready, you can reheat it. I chose the double boiler and place it in piping bags when you're ready to use them. You'll have to keep the piping bags at around 20 degrees C. I'm sorry, I use Celsius, not Fahrenheit. I do not know the temperatures in Fahrenheit. Once it's ready, you can put it in your mold and have it take pretty much whatever shape you want. I only had two semi-spherical mold, so that's what I used. And I kept them placed upside down to be able to have an even coating. I am not an expert chocolatier. The white chocolate is harder to temper, as you can see. I had to use a spatula, and I tried to have an even coating on my spheres before I placed them in the fridge to be able to set a little faster. Checking on my cake, an hour in, and this cake was a little hard to see if it was ready because as I poked it, I realized I was poking the cream cheese and I wouldn't be able to see if it was ready to bake or not. So I just trusted my instinct and let it cool in the rack for about 10 minutes while I melted some more chocolate for more decoration. I just made even, smooth plate that I will be able to shape later on when they cooled a little bit. Once the pan has cooled down a bit, I flipped the Bundt cake over, and the moment of truth, see if it unmolds evenly, and it did! We at least have a chocolate cake. We are halfway there. I took the tempered chocolate out of the fridge and made some of the designs for the decoration I would need later on. You need to do this decoration with a worm tool. I decided to use a cookie cutter and do it before it is fully set because otherwise your chocolate will shatter. And I started on my royal icing that will also be used as glue and decoration for the cake. Royal icing is icing sugar, meringue powder, which is an egg white powder, some milk. I use almond milk because that's what I have in my fridge, and some vanilla extract. Use clear vanilla extract, not vanilla paste, otherwise you will lose the white sheen and look a little cloudy. You'll have to mix that for about 4 to 7 minutes, pretty long time. Then you can just place it in a piping bag and it will keep in your fridge at least a couple of weeks. For chocolate work, I recommend using gloves to prevent the chocolate from melting when you're touching it. We will remove the spheres gently from their silicone mold. Because they were in the fridge, I was sure that they set up and just remove the silicone wrapping. One of them got a little bit dented, but I had made extras. It looks like a Death Star if you're a Star Wars fan. And you can see the chocolate is way easier to temper than white chocolate. You can see how shiny it is. By 3 hours of baking, you become delirious and play with chocolate. That spatula that I put on the element is not an accident. I wanted it to warm up a bit. Checking on our plates of tempered chocolate. It is fully solid, and so you can just pop out the shapes you cut out earlier without breaking into shards. All of the decorations set up in the fridge so it doesn't melt under the bright studio lights of my kitchen. With the hot spatula, I decided to try and clean up a bit the edges. However, at this point, I saw that my spheres were a little too thick, not as I anticipated. I think I put a little too much chocolate, and when I tried to slice them with the hot spatula, it kind of misshaped and was not holding evenly, so I got a little disappointed. I wanted to create nice even chocolate shards to place on top of the cake, but when I tried to cut thin shards, they were so not evenly chocolated that I decided against it, placed it back in the fridge, and went with my second option for decoration. For the decoration, you'll use the royal icing that we made earlier. Evenly coat that, which creates nice stripes on the Bundt cake that I had. I thought that made a nice graphic style of stripes and spheres. The shapes that we made, I glued with the royal icing that hardens and place them on the sides and on the top. Put it back in the fridge for now. Hurries up, as we're working with the hot spatula again to glue two half spheres together by warming the edges and assembling. I put that chocolate orb in the center of my bundt cake because I was afraid that some of the chocolate decorations would move around. I secured them with toothpicks and then placed the whole cake on the board once the royal icing had fully hardened.
3, 2, 1. Bakers, you are done!
And I was done just about in time. Time for judging our black and white chocolate bundt cake. My judges for the showstopper are Andy and Jen, who nicely came over before a fancy party to eat some cake, a little backwards. And here's what they had to say. They both liked the chocolate cake and how moist it was. That's thanks to the oil. I had forgotten to add chocolate chips, which would indeed have added a nice little crunch to the cake. The white chocolate cream cheese filling was nice in a change of texture, however it did not taste of white chocolate much, which was kind of a shame in the chocolate extravaganza. They liked the royal icing and the decorations, and here are the scores, 7 and 9. Thank you to my judges and thanks for watching. Visit tinyfrenchbacon.com for all the recipes. See you for Bread Week!